And what is going on, hockey fans? And welcome to another edition of NHL Weekly, right here exclusively on the Hockey Podcast Network YouTube channel. It is, as always, your host of NHL Weekly, Neil Villapiano. Thank you guys, as always, for taking time out of your week to check this episode and all the episodes that we have. This is your number one place to get everything you need to know about what's going around the National Hockey League and hockey in general. And as always, we have a ton to get to. But before we get to that, as always, a big shout out and thank you to our sponsors over at DraftKings Sportsbook. And when you sign up for DraftKings, use our promo code THPN and you can get $200 in risk-free bets when you place a $5 bet as well. And there are so many different events going on right now. Like, we got the NFL playoffs. Now we're getting into the divisional round. You obviously got hockey games every day, NBA as well, college basketball as well. So much going on. So when you sign up for DraftKings, use our promo code THPN, bet just $5 and you get $200 instantly in free bets. So shout out to DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the Hockey Podcast Network. So hockey fans, as you can see from the title and thumbnail of this episode, the main thing that we're going to talk about is some chaos going on in Columbus, Ohio, particularly with Columbus Blue Jackets starting netminder, or really at this point, third string netminder, Elvis Merzlikins. And so again, that's going to be the first thing we're going to talk about today. So literally just yesterday, on Monday, January 15th, the Columbus Blue Jackets had a 4-3 come-from-behind win in the shootout to beat the high-flying Vancouver Canucks. And after the game, Elvis Merzlikins, through Bally Sports Ohio, certainly expressed his frustration, saying he needed this win. And he had that great quote where he was saying that he was certainly angry, and now it's time to let the monster out. And if you haven't seen that clip, I wish I could show it here on this episode, but if you haven't seen the clip, I highly, highly recommend that you go check it out. And through all this as well, Elvis Merzlikins talked to the media, and this was him clarifying the comments that he made last week that both sides had mutually discussed him being traded. Well, now Elvis Merzlikins has made it official that he has requested to be traded away from the Columbus Blue Jackets. Merzlikins recorded a 27-save win in that game against Vancouver, and his record now is 8-6 on the season with a .906 save percentage and a 3.22 goals against average. And the thing that is going to certainly raise eyebrows for a lot of people is Merzlikins' contract. He is currently signed through the 2026-27 season at a $5.4 million cap hit. And throughout all of this, how did we get to this point? Well, Merzlikins has slipped down to the third goaltender on the depth chart, with Spencer Martin and Daniil Tarasov both splitting time for the majority of the last month. This is the first time in several weeks that Merzlikins has actually played and suited up for the Columbus Blue Jackets. And also, this past Friday, Merzlikins made this comment. He said, quote, "I just want to be treated as the number one. I believe that I am the number one. It didn't get to the point where I'm requesting a trade. It went to the point where both sides agreed." And then eventually, like I said, on Monday, yesterday, Merzlikins officially requested a trade from the Blue Jackets. So now Merzlikins becomes yet another goaltender whose name will come up through the trade board, and obviously looking at teams that need goalies. You have the New Jersey Devils, you have the Edmonton Oilers, you have the Toronto Maple Leafs, and several others. And so I'm sure there are already teams calling the Blue Jackets about, can they make this deal work? The difficulty is going to be the fact that Merzlikins is under contract for the next 3 seasons after this at a $5.4 million cap hit. So I think that most likely whoever acquires Merzlikins is probably going to get him with some amount of salary retention, whether that's 25% or even 50%, who knows? I don't think the Blue Jackets will end up getting a ton for Merzlikins because they don't really have a lot of advantages in terms of, say and trying to get this deal done, because Merzlikins' stats haven't been great. He has been solid, and you can make an argument that he's playing in front of a very not so talented Blue Jackets team in front of him. So that's where things are going to basically look at and say that the Blue Jackets don't have a lot of leverage with this. Do I think Merzlikins gets traded before the deadline? I think he probably does, even though even though I look at his contract and think this should be a an off-season type of deal, but because he wants out, he requested a trade. I think the Blue Jackets feel the sooner they get him out, the better it is for the overall status of the locker room. Even though Merzlikins has said numerous times that the Blue Jackets are his family, this is where he's really loved playing for, but I think he and the organization both seem to feel that a change is necessary. So let me know what you guys think about the whole situation. Where do you think he ends up going to? And do you think that he can be somewhat of a missing piece for a team that needs a goaltender to help them make a run in the Stanley Cup playoffs? Would really, really love to know your overall thoughts about it. Now, we posted an episode on Monday of last week. Almost like an hour or so, an hour and a half after we posted it, we got the bombshell news about the trade between the Anaheim Ducks and the Philadelphia Flyers. And last Monday, it was made official as the Philadelphia Flyers traded top prospect Cutter Gauthier to the Anaheim Ducks for Jamie Drysdale and a 2025 second-round pick. Right off the bat, this came out of absolute nowhere. Nobody could see or even understand why this trade happened. But once I explain to you the details of how we got to this point, it'll make a little bit more sense. Flyers general manager Danny Briere, after the trade happened, he told reporters that the trade was, quote, a long time coming, end quote. Briere also said that when the team drafted Gauthier, that the forward told the Flyers front office that he was, quote, built to be a Flyer and wanted to be a Flyer, end quote, before ultimately changing his mind. Should also mention, not really making much of a difference, but should also mention that Cutter Gauthier one time when he was interviewed for Team USA for some social media thing, he said that his favorite team growing up was the Pittsburgh Penguins. Did that have any, did that have any impact on this decision? Probably not. Probably not at all. It was just kind of funny that how that came out. But Briere also went on to say, maybe a few months later, he told us he didn't want to be a Flyer and didn't want to play for the Flyers. So in our mind, at first, we have to protect him. If he changes his mind again and it's out there that he doesn't want to play, it's going to be tough for him to put the uniform on. And so there has been a lot of speculation as to what exactly led to this. And even though Cutter Gauthier spoke about it a tiny bit in terms of just things changed than what he was originally told or understood, that it led to Cutter Gauthier not wanting to be a Flyer. There was one report that Elliot Friedman talked about earlier this past week that it had something to do with Cutter Gauthier was promised he was going to play with the Flyers towards the end of last season. That didn't happen. He was upset and frustrated by it. Some people claim it has something to do with John Tortorella, but who knows? And Cutter Gauthier has gotten a lot of backlash over the past week for this move and wanting out. And it's very unfair to him because we really don't know the full story and what really was going on. I do want to give John Tortorella a lot of credit. He completely went after a reporter who made some crazy, ridiculous report that Kevin Hayes had something to do with Cutter Gauthier wanting out. Like, Hayes told Cutter Gauthier to leave and everything, and that was complete and utter nonsense. And John Tortorella actually called out the reporter during a post-game of one of their games last week and really kind of read him the riot act, as he should. But yeah, this has become such a crazy week of just trying to process this. Now it's been fairly processed, and really we still don't have full answers as to what exactly has happened. Gauthier, currently 19, has been in the news not just for this, but his tremendous performance in the World Junior Championships. He had 12 points over 7 games as the U.S. won its 6th gold medal at the IIHF World Junior Hockey Championship, and he finished tied with Buffalo Sabres prospect and Czechia center Yuri Kulich for the most points in the tournament. He really, put his name out there a lot more. And before the trade, when talking about Jamie Drysdale on his end, there had been questions about Drysdale's future. He was the 6th overall pick in the 2020 NHL draft, and he played just one full season for the Ducks back in 2021-22. He had 4 goals and 32 points in all 82 games before sustaining injuries that have limited him to just 18 games played the past 2 years. So is Jamie Drysdale a bust? I think it's too early to determine that, but now Drysdale gets a fresh start playing in the city of brotherly love. And in 2 games so far, Drysdale has gotten no goals, but he's added 2 assists with a plus-minus of +1. So I'm really curious to know what you guys think of the trade. Do you think it was a fair one? Do you think one of these teams kind of won out in this situation? Personally, I think both teams ended up winning in this situation. I think the Flyers get, a young defenseman that they can build around. Cutter Gauthier goes to a Ducks team that's still young and, developing and rebuilding. And I think it gives them yet another talented forward to pair with guys like Troy Terry and Trevor Zegras. Although Zegras, there's been some reports about maybe he's on the trading block. Who knows? But the bottom line is that it was a crazy, crazy last week of just he said, she said type of moments. And all of this leads to Cutter Gauthier is now an Anaheim Duck. And Jamie Drysdale, along with a 2nd-round pick, is now in possession of the Philadelphia Flyers. So again, let me know what you guys think of the trade and everything that went down during that. Now, we talked about this same goaltender last week tying for the 2nd most wins in NHL history. Well, he is now officially the holder of the 2nd most wins in NHL history, as Marc-Andre Fleury on Monday night, this past Monday the 15th, he made history following a 5-0 win on Monday over the New York Islanders. The Minnesota Wild goaltender secured win number 5-2 to break the tie with Patrick Roy and become the 2nd winningest goaltender in NHL history. Fleury actually was coming into this game struggling quite a bit. He was 1-5-0 in his previous 6 games, and he tied Patrick Roy back on January 6th, about 10 days ago. And when the Wild won that crazy game where they ended up winning in overtime 4-3, Fleury made that diving save right at the end of the game that allowed the Wild to tie it. And, he won it. He tied it with dramatic fashion. This one was a little bit more calm as the Wild came, cruised to a decisive win. And so now, up next for Marc-Andre Fleury, if he can make that run, is Martin Brodeur, the longtime great New Jersey Devil, who many consider to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest goaltender in NHL history. Marty sits number 1 on the NHL's all-time wins list with 691 career wins over 22 seasons. So Fleury has well more than 100 wins to go if he wants to reach that. You do wonder how much more Fleury has left in the tank. I think it would be great. I would love to see him at least get to 600. I think that would be great, but it all depends on him and whether or not teams still want him. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him in the Wild once the season comes to an end. I should also mention, back on New Year's Eve, December 31st of 2023, Fleury reached another milestone when he became just the 4th goalie in NHL history to play in 1,000 games. Martin Brodeur, Patrick Roy, and Roberto Luongo are the only other 3 goalies to have played in more games than Marc-Andre Fleury. So Fleury just adding on yet another major milestone to an already well-deserved Hall of Fame resume, and he is certainly on his way. And we'll see how many more milestones he can reach before number 29, the man they call Flower, hangs it up for good. But nonetheless, congratulations to Marc-Andre Fleury for now officially becoming the 2nd winningest netminder in NHL history. And we'll see how many more wins does Fleury have before it's all said and done. So we're on our last 2 topics, a little bit much more serious note, I think. The first one, we got to talk about Valeri Nichushkin of the Colorado Avalanche. So 8 months after missing a majority of the Avalanche's season-ending playoff series loss to the Seattle Kraken for what the team deemed as personal reasons, Valeri Nichushkin has once again entered the NHL and NHLPA's Players Assistant Program, which basically is there for players who are going through difficulties with different things like mental health and, different types of abuses, whether it's, alcohol abuse or drug abuse. We've most recently seen guys like Carey Price go into that program. Samuel Girard of the Colorado Avalanche actually went into it a few months ago. If you remember, we actually talked about it here on NHL Weekly. The League of Players Association announced his entry into the program in a joint statement on Monday, yesterday, January 15th. And in that statement, Nichushkin said the following. He said, quote, "I have decided to seek help and enter the NHL's Player Assistance Program. My goal is to address my issues and prevent any negative outcomes once and for all. I want to thank my wife and family, my friends, and the Avalanche organization and all of our fans for their understanding and support. I will do everything I can to get back on the ice and join my teammates as soon as possible." End quote. Nichushkin is just the second player on the Avs to enter the program this year. As mentioned before, Samuel Girard was away from the team for a month and missed nearly 6 weeks worth of games after seeking treatment for severe anxiety and depression that led to alcohol abuse. So I think what's tough for Nichushkin is that this is the second time in less than a year that he's entered this program. So clearly he's dealing with some demons. And to put it very short and understanding, we do wish Nichushkin nothing but the best. And we hope that by the time he leaves the program and comes back, that he is fully, healthy and happy and with everything going on in his life. So we do wish him nothing but the best. Again, Valeri Nichushkin going into the NHL and NHLPA's Player Assistance Program for the second time in 8 months as he's dealing with some difficulties going on in his life. So again, we wish him nothing but the best, and we hope that it is a speedy recovery during this time. So the last thing I want to talk about has nothing to do with the NHL. It involves the NHL a little bit because they did make a statement on it, but we're going to talk about a little bit about international hockey, more specifically a decision that was made by the International Ice Hockey Federation, and it involves the country of Israel. So we'll start with this. The National Hockey League has expressed significant concerns with the International Ice Hockey Federation's decision last week to ban the Israel nation hockey team for an upcoming competition. In a January 10th announcement almost a week ago, the Zurich-based worldwide governing body for ice hockey said that it has decided to restrict the Israeli national team from participating in the IIHF championships until the safety and well-being of all participants, including Israel participants, can be assured. So I think it's fair to say with what has been going on over the last couple of months in Israel, I think is probably the big reason why it led to this decision. And that's what I'm going to base it on. The IIHF clarified on Friday that the ban only applies to a under 20 years old men's Division III World Championship tournament in Sofia, Bulgaria later this month, and that meetings will take place to determine the policy of future tournaments. Again, regardless of what level this is, we all clearly understand the main reason as to why the IIHF is doing this. Now, the NHL said in a statement on Saturday, and again, they didn't have to do this, but they said in a statement that the NHL has significant concerns with the announcement from the IIHF on Wednesday regarding the Israel national team's eligibility for and participation in upcoming IIHF events. We expressed those concerns to the IIHF and have attempted to get a better understanding of both the scope and underlying rationale for the decision that was made. And that's, again, the NHL expressing that they clearly do not agree with this decision, and they're worried about it, the long-term effect of it with, other tournaments coming up, not just this one, but future events that would involve the Israeli national hockey team, which, by the way, you could see by the picture, very, very sick logo and uniforms for that. I absolutely love that. Now, the statement continues and reads, as we understand it, the decision is intended to be temporary and rests solely on the IIHF's overriding concern for the safety and security of all of its stakeholders, including both the Israel national team and other participating teams. The IIHF was trying to clarify that they were looking out for the best interests of all parties involved, so to speak. Importantly, we also have assured that the decision is not intended to be a sanction against the Israel Federation and will not affect the Israel Federation's status as a full member in good standing with the IIHF. We urge the IIHF, count how many times I have to say that, to take whatever steps necessary to address its concerns as expeditiously as possible so that Israel national teams are not unfairly excluded from future events for which they are eligible and have qualified. So again, I don't want to go into too many details. I don't want to start anything, and I don't want to cause any issues. But again, this is clearly based off of what has happened in Israel as of late, and the IIHF feels that the safety of the players on the Israel national team, as well as players and fans of other countries, that their safety could be at risk, which I don't really think that's the case at all. This seems a lot more of an easy way out to prevent a country from being involved. And it feels like they're being personally targeted. And look, we know what has gone on in Russia, and we know what Russia has had happened to them in regards to their players not being allowed to participate in international competitions. But at the same time, it feels not the same here with Israel. It feels like that they are unnecessarily being punished for things for a lot of these players is just completely out of their control. Now, Michael Horowitz, an Israel hockey player and the CEO of the Ice Hockey Federation of Israel, IHFI, told the Canadian Jewish News that the move is, quote, discriminatory and against the Olympic Charter and will not be accepted by Israel, end quote. Now, Israel is going to appeal the decision to the Court of Arbitration for Sport based in Lausanne, Switzerland. I probably said that wrong, so I do apologize. But it'll be based in Switzerland, and that is according to Horowitz as well. So this is one of those situations where the IIHF, I think in some regards, I understand where they might be coming from, but at the same time, they are being unfair to the players and coaches and staff that is involved with the Israeli national team, that now all of a sudden, because of things out of their control, they are being ostracized and, pushed away from competing in international competitions. By the way, this is being held in Bulgaria. I would get it if this was a tournament that just happened to be happening in Israel, but it's not. It's happening in Bulgaria. So I don't know. I guess maybe they're worried that certain undesirable people are going to come and create problems and risk the lives of many people. I just don't buy that. I do believe that this is an unfair treatment to the Israeli team, and I hope that there is a resolution in place that's going to happen. We'll see what happens over the next couple of days once they go to court and appeal this, and we'll see if the appeal does get accepted. So that's really what it is. So let me know what you guys think of the whole situation. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What are your thoughts about not just this, but also everything that we've talked about today? And so on that note, hockey fans, that's going to do it for us for this edition of NHL Weekly. As always, thank you guys so much for taking time out of your week to check these episodes out. We really do appreciate it. If you like what you see and you want to check out more, make sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified every time a new episode of NHL Weekly comes out. And also, whenever we go live here on THPN for live watch-alongs covering every single team in the National Hockey League with so many different hosts like myself. You can also stay up to date with everything going on in the Hockey Podcast Network world by following us on both Instagram and Twitter at HockeyPodNet. And also, you can follow my personal Twitter account at The NVP Show, THENVPSHOW. And also, make sure to go check out all of the podcasts that we have here on the Hockey Podcast Network. We cover every single team and so much more, including my podcast, the Devil's State of Mind podcast, which covers the New Jersey Devils. I just posted a new episode today. We post weekly episodes covering everything going on within the New Jersey Devils world. So make sure you guys go check it out and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify for all of the podcasts. Really, really does help us out tremendously. But again, thank you so much for checking out this episode of NHL Weekly, and we will see you in the next episode. Everyone, continue to be the awesome people that you are. Have a great week, hockey fans, and make sure to rock on.